My dog woke me up at 2:30 in the a.m. and I couldn't go back to sleep until 4:30, and then I was up at 5:20. Wow, to see that beautiful sunrise over there. To go to work. And work is important, isn't it? Because we want to support our habit of, well, life and filmmaking. Getting to make your films is a privilege. Getting to the point where you make your films is a privilege. And, the old way of doing things is long gone now. Heck, DVD is almost long gone. They're still being sold, obviously. Internationally, people are selling DVDs. But you can't even buy a computer with an optical DVD CD drive in it. It doesn't exist. DVDs have become the way of the dodo. But I've got a friend, somebody I know, who just made a film, and it was released on the Sony platforms and in DVD on Amazon. That's amazing. Super cool. That's great. However, the future is not on a disc. It's not on a disc, and I shudder to think that is it even in the theater? Is the future of movies even in the theater? I mean, if it's not a $200 million tentpole budget movie for a studio, you're very hard pressed to even think about, unless you're doing your own release, like a tug release or something like that, which I've never done. Unless I have valuable, recognizable faces in the film, and it's a good hook that will get very good reviews in local papers, I'm not even going to attempt that ball game, because that doesn't make any sense. Because in one bad review would just tank your whole thing, and you would lose tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the size of your release, if you're going city to city. But making your films now for the digital era is a completely different ballgame. You've got to tap into however many digital sales you can, or however many international sales you can get through sales agents, or direct to buyers when you can find them, different territories. That is a big part of what you can. Like, I just learned that, if this thing goes through with the China sale for debunkers, shameless plug here, that's a good chunk of the budget of the film, of what was spent on the film. Now, it's not everything that I owe in deferred pay to the actors and crew that made it happen, but it's pretty awesome that one sale could pay for a majority of the film, and that's not even domestic, that's international. It's pretty cool. It's pretty inspiring. And this is all being done digital. Now, whether they go to the theater or DVD with it, that's none of my concern. They're going to do what they're going to do with it. But I know that a sale like that is pretty invigorating. And if I can quadruple the territories now and get more of those, then that only equals good things. Plus, domestically, what can I do domestically? Now, domestically, that's what, here in the States, that's where it's the hardest ball game, because the United States leads the world market in film products, without a doubt, bar none. Studio systems are here. Yes, you have studio systems in other countries, but they follow suit to what Hollywood puts out. Now, I'm not saying that what Hollywood puts out is a bunch of really good stuff. No, actually, I believe that it has no moral compass, but it represents what people want to see. You know, Hollywood is made up of corporations who do all millions of dollars of research on who is watching what, who wants to see what, and we as a culture, not individually, but we as a culture are telling them what we want to see, and that's what they're churning out, and that's what they keep making, because we go and buy tickets, put our butts in seats and pay for tickets, and so they'll keep making those movies, and then the rest of the world will follow in their arts, and a lot of their arts they'll follow suit. But what do we do here with our independent films? We, in the States, right? Well, there's two ways that I see it going, 3 ways I see it going about it. Either, well, you're gonna have to bootstrap your own film, or get private equity from friends and family, or if you're clever enough and prepared enough to pull off there's the sun, she's beautiful. If you're clever enough to pull off and prepared enough to pull off a crowdfunding campaign, then great, use that as equity, right? The sun is so blasting. I'm gonna cut that down just a little bit. Otherwise, you have to raise money. Now, this is talking about anything sub 100K, because that's sub 100K is very difficult to get recognizable talent in it to enough to make your film happen and sellable. Otherwise, you're bootstrapping a good story and script that you've spent time on, making sure that it's rocking and rolling, and that the beats are tight, and the hook is unique and for real, and it's a genre that you've researched that is selling. That is the key to making a film that will sell. Make sure it's a genre that's selling, and you've got a unique story to tell within that genre. And then you get great actors to fulfill that for you, and you bootstrap it. That is, you want to make your first couple of films, your first few, at this day and age, your first handful of films, feature films. I'm not talking about short films. Those are short films. Come on. I'm talking about feature films where you go out and make it a marketable product. Short films you cannot sell. There's no market for short films. If you want to make your first handful of films, you've got to bootstrap. You've got to get a second job or whatever, put all that money aside, save up your 10 grand, shoot it on a digital camera you can get a hold of that's going to shoot hopefully 4K at this point, with some nice prime lenses that you've rented, or that you've gotten a DP who comes with his camera, and then you do your best to bang it out by making reasonable food. Most of that 10K is going to go into food. paying to feed everybody who's on set. That'll get eaten up really fast. That was a really awful pun. Yes, the budget for your craft services and your meals will get consumed quickly, and it'll be the biggest part of your budget on a ultra micro budget film like that. But you make it good enough and it can sell in the international marketplace, and then you decide what you want to do with it. If none of the majors, I'll get on to the second point, is the first thing you do with it is try for festivals. If it can get at any of the top tier festivals in the United States, we're talking about Telluride, Sundance, South by Southwest, Santa Barbara has been on the map for a while, and New York stuff. A lot of these, even not in the States, but Toronto, obviously one of the biggest in the world. If you can get it into a top tier, you're going to gain some clout just from that. I'm not saying you're going to make $1 million. I'm just saying you'll gain clout in order to hopefully get hired to make your next film, or to be able to raise capital for your next film. And your current film will probably get picked up and make you enough money to make it back at very least, and hopefully enough to make another one. If you cannot get it into festivals and it doesn't get picked up. This is otherwise known as the pipe dream. There's something like 1,500 films submitted to Sundance every year, and they screen less than 100. And not even all of those are feature films. So if it doesn't get into a festival, you've got to figure out what to do with it. And we're not even considering international sales. That's a different ballgame. Although some people, some domestic buyers want to have worldwide rights. They don't want to have to mess with anybody else because they go anywhere with it. Beautiful souped up Cobra right there. Old school. So the next thing, digital platform, is you can sell. The second thing I was going to say is you can self-release it through Tug and or even online yourself. You're going to be putting money and marketing into that. You have to pay for a bunch of marketing for that, and you have to have somebody on board, whether it's you or your PMD, producer of marketing and distribution, to network for that film and market it and create the brand for your film and make sure people actually show up and pay for it. And then how much money are you actually putting in to doing all that marketing is going to actually come back into sales of the film. That is the big fat question mark. The third thing you could do with your film is drop it up onto platforms like Amazon. You can put an Amazon film up yourself, and you're splitting costs with Amazon. Trying to get it on Amazon Prime and Netflix, those types of things are very difficult because, Netflix at least, because they're producing their own content now, and they want to make sure that everything has recognizable talent in it, as opposed to somebody like Amazon who might put up something that as a pilot and use their clientele, you and me who have Amazon Prime, to market test that pilot and see if it's something that's workable. If it's not, then they won't continue on with it. They'll dump it really fast. But it's got to go through their QC and their eyes and heads of department to make sure that it even gets it onto that point first. You got to be able to see and meet those people. So slim pickings, you guys, in the United States, it's very, very, very rare for a studio actually to pick up a movie, especially not for newer filmmakers. We're talking about first handful of films to make unless you had something that blew up at Sundance and just like was on fire and had the audience going crazy, and it was a unique film and it has a great hook to it, and you proved yourself as a filmmaker. You see things like that happen, you know, the Colin Trevorrows of the world. But make your films yourself. The first thing to think about is what you're going to make right now. What are you going to do right now with your film? What film are you going to make right now, starting today or continuing today? It's not, 10 years down the line, I'm going to have, 10 years down the line is going to be a completely different landscape in film. How can you possibly even tell what's going to be 10 years down the line? You have no idea. There might not even be a studio system. It might implode. It's already starting. They used to kick out so many films, and now they can only kick out $200 million films or buy reasonable festival winners that were, for $5 or $10 million maximum. Heck, even the top crew in the planet on and off camera. Russell, who directed Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper in Silver Linings Playbook, I think it was made for $6 million. It got picked up for $2 million. This was a few years ago, obviously, at Toronto. That's where the business has gone, you guys. Top A-list cast, top A-list director, $2 million it made. Ouch! So don't worry about any of that. You want to be a filmmaker? Keep your job and then make films. That's where it's at. Keep your job, make films. And eventually you will be making 2 or 3 of your films that will turn around 2 or 3 times its budget and profit. If you're doing those at the same time, now you're a full-time filmmaker and don't have to keep your day job. That's where that goes. That's how that happens. But there's a lot of work involved in that. But hell, it's filmmaking, and if that's your passion, it's not really work. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on where the industry is now and what you can do with your films today to get something done. Thanks for joining me on my ride. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that now, please. I'm trying to grow this thing up. Click the like button because you're into filmmaking. We'll see you next time.